the latter part of this season, I've been testing the Outdoor Master Falcon goggles, and this is my end of season review. You can find out more about the general specifications of this goggle in my first impressions video, which I'll include up here and in the description, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much. Full disclosure, I have been sent this goggle by Outdoor Master to review on my channel, so I've not paid a penny towards this product, but I'm not in any way sponsored by Outdoor Master. This is not a paid promotion as such, so my views are 100% impartial and my own. So, along with the Ultra Zeiss goggles, this is Outdoor Master's most premium, most expensive goggle. It comes in at $120, which is currently less than £100. But at that price, you get a hell of a lot for your money. So this comes with two magnetically interchangeable lenses. The first lens, the primary lens, for bright sunny days such as today, this is a Zeiss sonar lens. Now, Zeiss sonar lenses are a real premium product. The Anon M4 goggle used to use Zeiss sonar technology, so this is something which you will find on goggles which cost 3 times the price of the Outdoor Master goggles. The secondary lens, it's not a Zeiss lens, but it's still a high quality lens. The lenses are really easy to interchange, so this is something you can comfortably do on the chairlift. Granted, it is much easier in your hand rather than on your head. You can still do it on your head. And they're simply held together by 10 really strong magnets. There's no clip or clutch you need to open. You just pull them away at the end. Easy as that. Some people might worry that without any kind of lock mechanism, you might lose your expensive lenses in a crash. Okay, granted, I've never crash tested these, but I can assure you the magnets are really, really strong. It's actually pretty difficult to get them off until you get the hang of it. So I really don't think there's ever going to be a problem of you losing this lens in a crash. Sonar is Zeiss's contrast boosting technology, similar in principle to the likes of Prism and Chroma Pop from other premium brands. And this works by filtering out certain wavelengths of light while boosting other wavelengths of light, which in theory really boost the contrast of the snow. And I can confirm, certainly when it's bright, the snow looks super vibrant. You can pick out every little divot, every little hump and bump, and indeed on a slightly cloudy day as well, you're really thankful to have that extra contrast boost in the lenses. Now, it is impressive, the technology, but it's not magic. It won't create contrast when there is none. If the light is completely flat, such as at the end of the day when the sun has gone down behind the hills, it's still daylight, but you haven't actually got any direct sunlight shining on the snow. The light is totally flat, it will still be totally flat. No matter what contrast boosting technology you have in your goggle lenses, you will not boost that contrast if there isn't any. It's not a miracle cure, but it does do wonders when you have got some light to play with. Here I have the blue frozen version of the lens. This has a light transmission of 18.6%, which puts it like smack bang in the middle of a category 3 lens. There are more strongly tinted lenses available, and indeed there are some with less strongly tinted lenses available, a higher light transmission. This is kind of the mid-range of all the Falcon lenses available. And in most iterations, this does the job very, very well. Now, I am somebody who is quite light sensitive, and in the really absolute brightest of situations, if there's zero cloud and it's completely covered in white everywhere you look, I do find myself squinting a little bit. I would have preferred to have a stronger tint, but the stronger tinted goggles don't have a coloured lens. They are the black smoke, I think, lenses, which are just black, and I prefer the look of a coloured lens, so I'll suck it up to have that little bit less tint, just so the goggle looks a bit more vibrant. But they do still filter out 100% of damaging UV rays, so even if you are finding yourself squinting a little bit on a bright day, you're not actually damaging your eyes, it's just that your eyes haven't fully adjusted to how bright everything is. The secondary lens, the low light lens, this is not a Zeiss lens, this is just an Outdoor Master proprietary lens, so in theory it's a slightly cheaper lens, but it still has Outdoor Master's own version of the contrast boosting technology, just obviously a much cheaper price. This lens has a 90% VLT or light transmission, so it is almost clear. It's got a slight yellow tint, as you can tell, but it is a very, very bright lens. So I can tell you right now, I am squinting quite a bit, but then of course it's not designed to be used when it is bright like this. It is a low light or indeed night riding lens. I have used these lenses on whiteout days, and personally for me, the tint isn't quite enough. I would still like something a bit more strongly tinted, maybe 80%, maybe even 60% VLT. 90% is just too bright for me in any daylight situation, and we don't really have any night riding here in the Alps, certainly not in Chamonix. There's no night riding, so for me actually this lens isn't a huge amount of use. At some point in the future I'll probably buy one of their more intermediate lenses, but for now on a whiteout day I generally find myself skiing with the primary lens most of the time, because here in the Alps most of the skiing is above the tree line, So when it's white, everything is white. Even if it's thick cloud, everything is white, everything is bright. So I still need something to block out some of that white night. In the US and Canada, when you're often skiing below the tree line, the trees are obviously darker. They provide a bit more shade, a bit more shelter, a bit more contrast. So maybe if I was skiing in the US or I was skiing somewhere with lots of skiing below the tree line, I could get away with these on a whiteout day. But for now, as I say, most of the time, I still use the primary lens. So that is probably the biggest criticism for me with the Falcon goggles. You don't get any choice with the secondary lens. There's lots of choice of the primary lens, but all Falcon goggles come with a 90% VLT yellow tint secondary lens, low light lens. And for me, that's just not enough. You can buy other secondary lenses which have got different tints, different light transmissions, but yeah, it is a bit of a letdown for me that you can't choose what your secondary lens is. In terms of fit and comfort, these have got a slightly narrower strap than many of the Outdoor Master goggles, which gives them more of a retro look, but that doesn't really detract from the comfort at all. It still spreads the weight, spreads the load perfectly fine. In terms of the shape of the goggles and the inside curvature of the goggles, they're probably medium curvature, but slightly towards the flatter end of the scale, but they're certainly not a flat goggle on the inside. And like all Outdoor Master goggles, the 3-layer foam on the inside is super comfortable next to skin as well, so they have got a really comfortable fit. Both lenses have a 3-layer anti-fog coating, and I must say this is super impressive. I have other goggles which in theory have anti-fog coating, which it just doesn't work at all, and I'm talking premium higher price goggles than these where the anti-fog is just absolutely terrible. They steamed up completely and almost ruined my day on epic powder days, whereas I've used these on powder days, on hot sunny days and everything in between, and they've only fogged up an absolutely tiny bit when you're standing still on the lift line, for example. When you're skiing, when you're moving, even when you're on the chair and you've got any wind flow blowing through them at all, the steam just evaporates instantly. So it's really quite impressive just how good the anti-fog and the ventilation, which is of course just as integral as the anti-fog. Yeah, so far so good. These have not let me down yet when it comes to steaming up and fogging up. Now, in terms of style and of image, this is the one thing where Outdoor Master have missed the mark a little bit with the Falcon goggles, in my opinion. But of course, image is incredibly subjective to the individual. But for me, these just don't quite work as well as some of the other Outdoor Master goggles, such as the Ultra, for example. The thinner strap is okay. I prefer a wider strap, but there's nothing wrong with the thin strap. But kind of the fairly bland grey strap just doesn't really work for me. I prefer something much louder, much brighter. They do have straps with slightly more colourful designs, but still quite a basic, quite a bland design. But the big thing for me is the cylindrical lens. So a cylindrical lens is flat in the vertical plane. There's no curvature in the top and bottom, which is what you would get in a toric or spherical lens. And this means that the top of the goggle in particular sits so far out away from the face. Also at the sides here as well, because you don't have the curvature at the edge, they also stick out really far from the face, which to me makes them look just a little bit dorkish. I mean, again, looks are entirely subjective, but for me they just look a little bit silly. It just hasn't quite worked with this style of goggle. Personally, for a cylindrical lens goggle to work for me, it needs to sit much more flush, much closer to the face. Outdoor Master on all their goggles are OTG, over the glasses designs, which means that the lenses sit quite far from your face. And for me, you just can't do that with a cylindrical goggle. It just doesn't work because the lens ends up sitting so far away from your face that it just looks a little bit silly. This becomes even more apparent when pairing the goggles with a helmet. So here I have Outdoor Master's Diamond MIPS 2 helmet, and in theory all Outdoor Master products have a seamless fit, seamless design between the goggles and helmet, but it just isn't with these goggles, unfortunately. This is what a seamless fit should look like between your goggles and your helmet, but this is just not possible with over the glasses design. The lenses just sit far too far away from your face to be able to match the curvature of the helmet. They also don't have the same shape as the helmet. The goggles have a continuous curve, continuous arc, whereas the helmet is more flattened at the front and sticks out at the sides. Now that's more of a criticism of the shape of the helmet rather than the goggles itself. But again, these are both Outdoor Master products. It shouldn't be too difficult for them to design them to have the same curvature on the outside of the shell of the helmet and the goggles. But at least there's not a big punter gap, and that's the most important thing. So for me, I think Outdoor Master need to go back to the drawing board a little bit with the design of the Falcon goggles and forget the OTG nature. Glasses wearers can still get the Ultra goggles with the same high quality lenses and still be able to use their glasses inside the goggles. So it's not prejudicing against people who wear glasses, they can just choose a different model. There's no need for these to be able to fit over glasses. So if you still want to have a goggle design with a very retro look, such as the Falcon, the cylindrical lens, the narrow strap, then just forget having them an OTG design and make them sit closer to the face and match with the helmet. But that's just my opinion. But in spite of all that, I would still highly recommend this goggle as it is, if you like a cylindrical lens goggle. Indeed, they have grown on me, especially when worn with a bobble hat such as this. I'm starting to like the style now, and irrespective of style and cosmetics, it's a really high quality goggle with amazing lenses, and it's well worth the money. Indeed, it's an absolute steal at that price. So if you are interested in buying a pair of these, or indeed any other product from Outdoor Master, if you use my discount code, which is in the description or here on the screen, you'll receive an extra 20% off, making them even more of a bargain. So they really are the best value brand on the market right now.